Pros have been looking forward to a rematch between Terence Crawford and Errol Spence, but Terence has revealed that his rematch with Errol has been cancelled. Shane Mosley thought that Errol was really weak in his first fight, and Shane stated, "I was expecting that to go that way. I thought Spence had a little bit more power and a little bit more energy to him. I did think Crawford was going to win, but I didn't think he was going to win like that. But looking at the fight and watching how Spence was moving around, I think he was very weak. I know that people say, oh, that's an excuse. No, that's not an excuse. I would expect a better fight out of Spence. I would expect a better fight out of both of them. Mentally, I don't think he was there all the way. This fight could have hurt Spence, being that he got stopped and took a lot of shots. So we don't know how this fight took a toll on him either. We'll see what happens." James Toney didn't think that a rematch would be much different than the first fight, and he stated, "I think Crawford is too much for Spence, but we'll find out. We'll never know until they're in that ring. I'm not being biased. Crawford is the better fighter. He's fought the better competition. People say that Spence has, but I don't see it. I see a late round stoppage, knockout. Spence has never dealt with anyone who's just as fast as he is and who hits harder than he does. I love Sean Porter, but Crawford beat the brakes off him." Eddie Hearn thought that people should look at the issues Errol had been dealing with, and he stated, "Without taking anything away from Terence Crawford's performance, there are starting to be a few miles on the clock for Spence, whether it's lifestyle, retina, or car crash, whether it's tough fights, and that kind of fight last time would do some more to take some extra miles off the tank. I do think he'd be stronger at 154. He's been at 147 a long time, but I still think Terence Crawford is the big favorite in that fight. I don't think it's a fight people are clamoring for, so I think you're going to have to find something to get Spence off the pan for that rematch." Sean Porter believed that people should check out their resumes a little more.
This is what I think about resumes, and especially when it comes to these two fighters specifically, because they got a lot of the common opponents.
Yes.
But the day that they fought these opponents is what's uncommon. And so you can pick who you want to pick, and I fought him and he had I broke both eyes, and then you fought all this and that. Bottom line is, a lot of fighters aren't who they are on Tuesday. They're not that same fighter on Saturday.
You are absolutely
That's the
right.
bottom line.
So what about you?
What I'm saying is exactly who I was against Crawford was not who I was against Spence. Ain't taking nothing from Crawford, and ain't taking nothing from Spence whatsoever. But for me, my situation was all internal.
Okay.
That was that I took to the ring, that I just, and when I had that moment, we seen the towel come in, because that was the moment that was expected, for the sake of words, whatever the case may be.
Brian McIntyre thought that Errol being weight drained was what was wrong in the first fight, and Brian stated, "I would say that is an excuse. Again, he had to weigh in the same weight as Bud. He knew about the fight months before, so I mean, if he was weight drained, that's just bad coaching on Derek James' part. We all had the right amount of time to prepare for this fight. I'm not looking for any excuses or anything of that nature. Errol had no excuses. Everybody else did. Derek James tried to assure people that wasn't the issue, though, and he thought that Errol would do much better in the rematch. Derek stated, "You'll see him in the rematch. He won't be so drained, he won't be so depleted or whatever." That wasn't the issue. Crawford fought a good fight. Crawford had a great game plan, right? So you're talking about Crawford's coach. He was the better guy that day. I don't know anything about it. Nothing. That part about the weight class, I'm sure they already signed that or whatever, but I don't know anything about that either. Jerome Ennis preferred to see Errol move up in weight because he thought that he should have done better in the first fight.
It was an okay fight, Bud did his thing. It seemed like Spence was just off, like flat, wasn't moving his head, he was getting hit with a lot of shots and things like that, Bud did his thing.
Did you expect it to be competitive? It seemed like it was like one-sided from the rip.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be a little bit more competitive, but it's boxing, things happen. But I don't know what it was. It just seemed like Spencer's, it might have been like, he just was off. He just slow, timing was bad. Just everything was like wrong. Yeah, I mean, it could have been a weight though, so I don't know. Maybe when he go to 54, he'd be probably a little bit better.
Is that a fight that you want to see at 54? I'm just talking about just fan, not being a mandatory. Or was it so wide that it's like, what's the point?
Honestly, I ain't gonna lie. I mean, I feel like it ain't no point. I mean, because it was one-sided. But I mean, maybe at 54, maybe he'll have a better advantage. Maybe he'll feel a little better, you know, extra 7 pounds and not losing that much weight. But I don't know, you know, I don't know.
Technically, is there anything that you've seen like that Crawford did to, I guess, like negate Spence's jab or his body work?
Only thing I seen was Crawford didn't really switch. He didn't switch at all. He stayed southpaw the whole time.
Is he stronger at southpaw from orthodox from where you standing?
I think Crawford really is only a southpaw fighter. I don't think he's built on the right hand side. And when he turned southpaw, you could tell he's right-handed because he threw everything with his, you know, he finished his combination with his right hand. So you could just tell.
Leonard Ellerby seemed to agree that 154 would make Errol Spence look better. Leonard stated, but Errol gave him the opportunity when he didn't have to. He made the fight because he wanted to do it for the fans. He sacrificed some things. So in my opinion, you gotta do what you gotta do. 154 is 7 pounds north. It does make a difference. Errol Spence is an incredible fighter, and Crawford is too. If that's what Errol wants to do in the rematch, I support him wholeheartedly because as a fighter, as a man, he knows what he wants, and if Crawford will grant him that opportunity to give it to the fans. Errol didn't have a good night that night, but it's sometimes like that. He just wants the opportunity to redeem himself, and I support that. Terence thought that his plan to fight Errol as a southpaw was what helped him get the victory.
Given the circumstances that Errol haven't fought too many southpaws, I was like, okay, I'm gonna come out southpaw right out the gate.
Hey, how does Bomac, how does he handle you? Like, you in the back room talking about how should I start this fight? Y'all been training for months. He don't say, bud, stick with the game plan.
But you gotta understand, I got so many styles.
Yeah.
So it's like we training for this style, Terence Crawford. We training for this style, Terence Crawford. This style, Terence Crawford, and we training for the overall game plan.
Yeah.
After the first fight, some pros were calling for Errol Spence to retire, and Barry McGuigan definitely thought that he should consider it. Barry stated, I'm worried for Errol Spence. I'm not a doctor or a scientist, but I've been in boxing for 50 years, and I know when I see a guy lose punch resistance. The way that Terence Crawford was able to dismantle him in Las Vegas was frightening from Spence's point of view. It didn't look like Spence in there. That's how good Crawford was. He made a great fighter look like an amateur, and Spence knew it. He was beaten mentally. That doesn't go away. Tim Bradley thought that Errol should be evaluated for his well-being, and he stated, I'm not telling him to retire, but I'm just saying. After what I just witnessed Saturday night, you got some questions, bro, to ask yourself. And you got some talking to do with your family, because if I'm your kid, if I'm your son and your daughter watching this, I'm like, Daddy, no point, Dad. We got everything we needed. You're a great fighter, Dad. You've been a Hall of Fame someday, Dad. Why keep taking this punishment, Pops? There's no point, Pops. You ain't got nothing to prove. You ain't got nothing to prove. Hey, Crawford was just better that night. That's it. Let's leave it at that. You don't have to operate the rematch. Don't do it. Errol showed that he recently had eye surgery to help with a cataract.
It started pouring out of nowhere. Is that her?
Yeah.
Okay. And when you drop me off the wrong person.
On top of that, he tried to say that it didn't help his performance against Terence, and Errol stated, why do you think I got hit with so many jabs and hooks? Still a great performance by bro. Terence has recently posted a response that leads fans to believe that the rematch is canceled now, and he stated, I've done heard it all now, Errol Spence Jr. It's okay though, because all in all, I'm glad it's over and done with. I wish you well, my brother. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and check out some of our other videos on the screen right now.